Welcome, Doctor. I must say, I'm surprised you were able to get this far. Huh? Oh, it's you. Figures you'd be involved in this. Guess you know me so well. After all, we are family.
Will you meet friends where your odyssey ends? Will they have...
Greetings, travelers. I'm your host, the C-Dot that knows a lot, Dr. Waluigi. With this being my second year anniversary, I thought that I would take a look at another movie that relates to the dream world, and while I don't think it's as good as the Nightmare series, it is still unique enough that I think it's worth talking about. This is Little Nemo Adventures in Slumberland.
Will you meet friends where your odyssey ends? Will they have...
Created by Winsor McCay in 1905, the character of Little Nemo was originally a comic strip character whose stories were all about a young boy going on crazy adventures in his dreams. The comic strip lasted for 22 years until it was eventually cancelled. However, that didn't stop this character from becoming a well-recognized and beloved character. Little Nemo would continue into other forms of media, including operas, stage shows, and even one of the earliest animated films created in 1911. Sadly, though, the film we're looking at today is not considered by many to be in the same vein as the other works related to this character. The movie was a passion project of Yutaka Fujioka, a producer in Japan who had helped release many of the great anime in the 80s with his company TMS. The movie began production in 1977, but wasn't released to the West until 1992. The movie had gone through many rewrites and animators, all who have said in their interviews being some of their worst experiences in the industry. Many of the people who worked on this would become very famous over time, including Hayao Miyazaki, Brad Bird, and Ray Bradbury. Even George Lucas and Chris Columbus were brought on to help make this movie. Sadly, the movie underperformed at the box office, only making $11.4 million against an estimated $35 million budget. Jeez, and some people say that modern movies have a lot to live up to. However, the movie has gained a small cult following over the years and is now appreciated by many people around the world.
Will you meet friends where your odyssey ends?
The plot follows a young boy named Nemo who is summoned by the ruler of Slumberland, King Morpheus, to become the heir of his kingdom and the official playmate of his daughter, Princess Camille. However, Nemo accidentally releases the evil ruler of Nightmare Land and must now save King Morpheus with the help of his companions. Can they make it through the evils of Nightmare Land, and will Nemo be able to use the mighty scepter to defeat the Nightmare King and save the world of dreams?
Will you meet friends where your odyssey ends?
The cast of this movie is really all over the place. On the one hand, you have well-known actors for the time such as Renee Auberjonois from Star Trek and Mickey Rooney, one of the most well-known actors from the 30s leading up to his death in 2014. And on the other hand, you've got the weaker actors with Gabriel Damon as Nemo and Laura Mooney as Princess Camille, who were really young doing this film, and it shows in their performances, which I will discuss in the negative portions of the review. For now, I will say that these actors' performances are good and were impressive considering all of the behind-the-scenes chaos that was happening with the making of this movie.
Will you meet friends where your odyssey ends?
I agree with most critics of this movie that the animation is the best part of the whole thing. It really does shine through as one of the few animated movies that shows the large scale of the dream world. Honestly, other than the Nightmare series, very few films try to give an interesting interpretation of the dream world. While the Nightmare series is obviously centered on the horror part of the dream world, I like how this film still keeps the same theme from the comic strip, which did bring up something interesting when it comes to one of the characters of the movie. So obviously King Morpheus is named after Morpheus, the god of dreams from Greek mythology, and while the villain is never named, I think that would make the Nightmare King Apollonius, the Greek god of nightmares. Huh. Well, I'm sure that learning this fact will make one crazy Greek fan happy.
Meanwhile,
odyssey ends.
Honestly, the worst parts of this movie come down to two simple things. First is the voice acting, as I mentioned before, with the weaker actors being Nemo, Camille, and the Nightmare King. While these actors did get better roles, they really don't work well here. An example would be the actress they got for Camille, Laura Mooney. She's trying really hard for her first acting role, but she comes off more bored and giving a flat delivery. It doesn't help that her accent comes and goes in almost all her scenes. Which brings me to the biggest miscast for Nightmare King, played by Bill Martin, who seems like a really good actor and has done some pretty impressive characters such as Broadside from the Transformers and Sam Hain from Real Ghostbusters. But sadly, the main issue I have with this character is that his voice doesn't match the big and grand design of the character. It probably would have been better to hire the voice talents of someone like Tony Todd or James Earl Jones. The other big reason this movie isn't as good as it could be is the pacing. Most of the movie is filled with unnecessary scenes that don't go anywhere other than to world build and to have the Sherman Brothers write some very boring songs. Which is a shame because while Slumberland is designed really well, the Nightmare Land is a generic and plain world, as the only actual places we see of Nightmare Land are a swamp, a dark forest, and the most bland-looking mountain fortress.
Will you meet friends where your odyssey ends?
Before I get to my final thoughts, I might as well mention the video game. The game was developed by Capcom and released in 1990. The game is a platformer that follows the movie's plot pretty close. It's honestly the biggest problem with the game. The levels are pretty short if you know what you're doing, and the last levels are the only ones that change anything, since these levels are the only time you use the scepter as opposed to the candy you use to take control of certain creatures in the rest of the game. I may go into more detail in a later review, but for now I will say that this game isn't really a good game to play if you like the movie.
Will you meet friends where your odyssey ends?
This movie is very flawed. Unlike a lot of other movies centered upon dreams or even a long-lasting property, this movie only has three things that make it memorable: the animation, the talent behind the making of this movie, and the multiple versions that have popped up over the years. Interesting thing about this movie is that before Miyazaki left, he made an animated opening for this movie, which is available on YouTube for free if you ever want to check it out. For now though, I give this movie a 7 out of 10. It's still a creative movie that came out during the golden years of animated cinema. Definitely check it out if you already haven't. Well, thanks for watching. I'm Dr. Waluigi, and remember, don't judge a book by its cover, cause you'll never know what's inside. Good night, everyone.
Will you meet friends where your odyssey ends? Will they have spots or polka dots or purple noses? Ooh, whatever you do.
So, I take it that you're the ones who actually sent out that distress call. But of course, we wanted you here to witness the end of the Reviewiverse by our hands. You guys will never learn, will you? What's that supposed to mean? Did you honestly think that I or the rest of the council would have set these prisons up without knowing that you or someone else might have tried to put the Emperor together again? We set up safeguards for every possibility. Huh, please, you're just bluffing so that your friends can come and save you. Oh, I wouldn't say that. Computer, activate safeguard number 3. Wait, what? Gah! Took you long enough. Shut up and let's get out of here. Wait, what about the others and Freddy? We can worry about that later. We need to get out of here. The dream is starting to collapse. Are you kidding me? That Freddy was a fake? Afraid so. He escaped just as soon as you got here. The Freddy you were fighting was nothing more than a Tapurimon. Damn it! Ugh, that means that they only need 5 more pieces and we'll be going back to war. What do you intend to do? We need to get to headquarters and warn them about what's going on. Barvin, set a course for headquarters.